Dear guests, I would like to announce the beginning of our next panel. So I would kindly encourage all who would like to continue to join our second panel to take your seats so we could invite the speakers. Our second panel is Ukraine energy sector recovery and reform support. As it was discussed in the first panel, that not only funds and financing is needed, but also secure and stable regulatory framework. And Ministry of Energy, together with partners, were working on the energy reforms with the help of course, with international support. So right now, I would like to invite moderator of our second panel, Yulia Kiyan, Director General of Strategic Planning and European Integration, Ministry of Energy of Ukraine. Natalia Boyko, Advisor of the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Grzegorz Zieliński, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, Director, Head of Energy Europe, SIG. David Lassila, Special Envoy for the Reconstruction of Ukraine, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Italian Republic. Roman Shakhmatenko, Team Leader of the Energy and Environment Portfolio, UNDP in Ukraine. Mr. Christian Sis, Special Representative of the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Ukraine. And Gerlin Heckmann, Deputy Director General at the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. Yulia, I wish to you and all speakers a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you for introduction, my honorable speakers, because first panel we have about more political level strategy, and now we will talk in the real life what we have. First of all, colleagues, I'm pleased to welcome you on today's second panel regarding recovery and reform of Ukraine energy sector. As you all know, almost 3 years energy sector suffering from the attacks of Russia. And it's like incredible that we still have electricity and we still have this incredible help and assistance of our partner, because I think that that's the reason why we still have electricity, why we are still believing and dreaming on our development of our energy sector, modernizing energy sector, is because that energy worker really made amazing work. And this significant cooperation of our partners that help us to survive. That's why on today's panel we will talk with representative of a government, we will talk with representative of our partners, and we would like to hear about current situation, about your future plans of assistance. And I think that the most important is to hear from you the vision, how Ukraine energy sector need to be developed, where we need to go, and how you can help us on this. And the first one speaker that I would like to invite today is Natalia Boyko. We already hear from our Minister Galushenko current situation in the Ukrainian energy sector, but maybe Natalia will add some more additional information about that, and it will be very interesting to hear the priorities of our government in long, middle and short term, and also maybe some gaps that we already know about and how we would like to deal with these gaps, and in common, the vision of the future restoration, modernization, and development of Ukraine energy sector. Floor yours.
Thank you so much. We have extremely challenging period now, in general in Ukrainian history, but also the energy sphere faces now very unique challenges every day. Today was a very challenging day. Monday was a quiet, bad day. It's a very special way to develop the energy system, because in one hand, you are much more clear with your requests, because we know that we need to be stronger, we need to be better, we need to be resilient, we need to be very much focused on the very concrete result. We need to protect our system, to decentralize our system. We need to have a very unique partnership with our friends and investors and international partners. On the other hand, the responsibility that we are facing every day is unique and is very hard, because each Ukrainian family knows that people in energy sphere are working every day to bring light, heat and gas to each Ukrainian home. And understanding of that fact, that it's not just about the development of the country, it's not about the future, but it's also about surviving. This winter and this winter period is quite challenging. That's why we focus very pragmatically, first of all, on the reparation and reconstruction of all possible short decisions that might be implemented in very short period. And we was trying to prepare all objects in a very detailed way with the maximum of their capacity to the day X, to the start of the winter season. At the same time, we start working in parallel with each object with the passive protection. As Minister mentioned, every day our workers, they know that they are a target and that Russia will try to destroy the objects, to destroy their life, and to change the situation dramatically in a bad way. That's why passive protection with the different levels, level first, level second, level 3, is also the second important priority for each energy object. The next important priority for us is, of course, the new generation capacity. We are going in with a very decentralized ways. We are trying to build a lot of small objects and projects and to propose for new investors to rethink their vision and their plans with Ukraine in that way. At the same time, we understand that we need to be very pragmatic, and we also are trying to have so much backup generation and backup reserves as possible for the each period, for the each day, for each month. And in one hand, I'm in the same page with Artur, who mentioned in the first panel that the only question that we currently have is money. But it's just like in a partly true. At the same time, we have a clear feeling that the equipment line is also much longer as we need, because we already have now the competition in equipment side. A lot of companies have the same requests. We have competition between private companies and state-owned. We have a competition between projects, for example, with USA and with international partners and with Ukrainian companies. Because Ukraine request for the equipment is huge, it's emergency, and probably in general, we as in Europe was not very much ready for such a new request in equipment movement. And one more challenge that we are facing every day is unfortunately the human resource, technical specialists, project managers, local teams, technical people with the understanding of the project development. Unfortunately, not all our partners are ready to work now in Ukraine, and we are okay with that. But at the same time, we have a clear understanding that without new hands, new brains, new technologies, new solutions, we will be cut from a lot of solutions that might develop us for the very new level. That's why, in my understanding, in one hand, we have a really very unique situation. We are very much welcome to each new project, to each new idea, to each company, each partner. At the same time, we have no time. We always are in a rush, we always are very pushy, and that's why we appreciate very much the readiness from our partners to be a bit more flexible, to bring new solutions, to work in our deadlines. We understand it's very much complicated, it's not easy, but at the same time, for us, it's bring our new day, and for us, it brings the way to survive. So thank you very much for the very unique way how you are supporting us. Thank you very much for all new solutions, exceptions, new visions, strategies that you are providing for us. The very unique support and partnership is the only way for us to survive. Thank you very much, and let's bring Ukraine a new energy strategy on a very different new level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia. And dear colleagues, just few numbers for you. More than 1,000 times Russia attacks Ukraine energy sector. More than 50% the losses of electricity energy capacity from the beginning of full-scale war. But more than 700 million grants through the Energy Support Fund. More than 20,000 tons of humanitarian aid in the energy sector. Why I'm telling this? Yes, war is big disaster, but what it shows to us, that cooperation, international cooperation, work good. And we really appreciate for that. The next one, question and speaker will represent one of our good partner. It's Germany that assists to us as donor to the Energy Support Fund, that assists to us humanitarian aid, and they also provide us help with our reforms. That's why Deputy Director General Gerling Herman, if it's possible, please tell us more about current assistance of Germany to Ukraine energy sector, your efforts, how you help your Germany companies that working on the Ukraine market, and also if it's possible to provide mid and long-term support for energy policy reforms from your side.
Thank you very much for having me today, and I first would like to underline that the most crucial part is on your side, on the Ukrainian side, and you are doing a tremendous and amazing job, and I only can congratulate you how you physically and psychically stand that 4 years. That's really congratulations. And I'm happy for the opportunity today to speak on one aspect that is really crucial for Germany when it comes to support Ukraine in this cruel fight against Russia after the attack. This is the support in the energy sector. Just as Germany is committed to support Ukraine as long as it takes, and we're doing that militarily, financially, and economically, we also support, of course, the energy sector resilience. Thereby, you mentioned that already, we can rely on a long-term and really sound basis. We established our energy partnership in 2020, and this is for both of us a kind of platform and chance to cooperate very closely between our governments, but as well with the sector in the economic field. And we're doing that on short-term and on middle and long-term issues. The dialogue addressing several topics such as decarbonization, energy security, a very crucial point, and the economic cooperation. Since the start of the Russian aggression in February 2022, we've also been supporting the emergency needs. That's right now is the main focus for us. With more than 300 million euro, Germany currently is by far the biggest donor in the Ukraine Energy Support Fund, and through the fund we finance procurement and repair of critical infrastructure, including renewable energies, in an, as we found, very efficient and transparent manner, and currently we are preparing another contribution. Moreover, a donation campaign encourages associations and companies in the German energy sector to support rebuilding the Ukrainian energy infrastructure with donations. Almost 90 companies from Germany already made donations and offered them. Overall, more than 8,100 goods ranging from generators to solar panels to essential electric tools were delivered so far under this campaign. And this is a kind of constant campaign. We are trying to motivate our companies as long as it takes. And these donations reached, as we suggest, amount around 500,000 Ukrainians. Also, our parliament has approved additional winter support right now to provide Ukrainian cities and municipalities with smaller combined heat and power plants, with boilers, with generators, transformers and solar systems. So this is a very pragmatic and practical help and assistance. The procurement and delivery of these goods is already underway to supply energy and particularly heat for the winter period. Moreover, we continue to support our companies to invest in Ukraine despite the war. As for Germany, I can say we are maybe a kind of pioneer in covering economic and political risks for exporters and investors from Germany in Ukraine, while we have kept open our instruments even during wartime, and we did that from the first day on. This is part of our commitment to support Ukraine and to mobilize private capital and leverage the potential of the Ukrainian economy. However, next to the immediate needs, we also need to think about the more long-term perspective and to think about future tasks and reforms needed in the future. This includes supporting Ukraine on its way to implement the National Energy and Climate Plan, to fulfill the climate targets for 2050, to phase out coal-based power generation, and works towards the accession to the European Union. Germany has a long transition history, with the last hard coal mine closed in 2018 and a fixed coal exit until 2038 at the very latest. So in this field, we are very pleased to share our experiences with Ukraine in the project Just Transition and Green Energy Sector Recovery. 2 weeks ago, your country did an amazing step. The Just Transition Action Plan for the coal microregion in Lviv region until 2030 was approved by the Oblast administration, and this is the first territorial Just Transition Plan in Ukraine according to EU standards and approaches, and this is really a big success. Congratulations to that. So plenty of more work and business opportunities lie ahead as we think. Ukraine has a very promising role in the European energy system in the future. For instance, as a supplier of green energy, you have a huge potential in that field, and therefore Germany supports the integration into the European power grid. To develop the full potential, the job is to get, of course, the regulatory framework right, also for investments, and we are happy to support Ukraine as well in this field. We will continue to do so together with all our partners, and that means through the energy partnership, our bilateral partnership, and through international collaboration. For instance, within the G7 Energy Coordination Group, the European Commission, of course, one of our closest partners, and of course the Energy Community Secretariat for the process of transposition of European energy acquis, so just to name a few. Thank you very much. That's from my side.
Thank you very much. It's really good when you see and you hear from your partners that you are moving in the right way. And we are very appreciate that you are one of those who help us to move in the right way. And the next speaker that I would like to hear is Italy. It's Mr. La Cecilia. And Italy this year are on the head of G7 Plus coordination. And I believe that Energy G7 Plus coordination group is one of like very hard worker people, because we have really many meetings and they are really important for coordinate all partners to understand who do what and how we could help each other. It's very important to hear from Ukraine side the current situation, our current priorities, to provide on the right way assistance that they could give to us. That's why my question to Mr. Cecilia, what is the Italy overall strategy for supporting Ukraine energy sector for recovery and reconstruction, and how does it align with Ukraine governmental priorities and coordination with international efforts? And also, maybe you could also add some information about how you approach to engage the private sector to invest in Ukraine energy sector reconstruction.
Thank you very much, Julia. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, let me say that Italy, in its capacity as the president of the G7 in 2024, attached a high level of priority to the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. We keep Ukraine and its recovery at the center of the agenda of the G7. This is part of our multidimensional support. Within this support, energy sector is really critical because of its immediate relevance for the Ukraine population and also for its role in the functioning of the Ukraine economy. So this has been central throughout the whole Italian presidency, and we do share the sense of urgency in the words of Natalia, who spoke before me. We've been working very closely with partners, with the European Union, with the G7, in the framework of the Ukraine donor platform, in order to coordinate with the Ukrainian government so that their priorities were reflected in our discussions and in our decisions, and we work in the same direction. We share this group of G7 plus energy support countries for supporting energy resilience of Ukraine. We had the last meeting in New York in the margin of the UN General Assembly, chaired by Secretary of State Blinken and the Vice Premier Tajani, with the Minister of Foreign Affairs Sibiga. And that was a very important meeting in order to raise once again the awareness on the level of priority that should be given to energy, also in view of the winter. The same within Ukraine donor platform. We had a meeting in Rome on the 9th of October. Once again, energy was indicated as a strong priority in the action of donors. This is very important not only for the immediate needs, we believe, of Ukraine, but also as a long-term vision of transformation of Ukraine economy into a more decentralized, diversified, resilient, and sustainable energy systems. We are all working in this direction, and in the organization of the Ukraine Recovery Conference next year on 10th and 11th of July in Rome, energy will be a very important issue. We will try to, and of course it's very difficult to establish priorities at such a long distance, but for sure energy will be at the center of this conference. This is important also for the Italian bilateral engagement. Our government has committed 100 million in a co-financing effort with the BRD in order to support Ukrhydroenergo. Vice Premier Tajani committed another 50 million in the Berlin conference which will go for immediate needs in the energy sector. There is also a very strong engagement from the Italian private sector. Italian private sector as the German one through the European civil protection support provided material and energy equipment in kind in the first stage of the emergency. And another strong element, as Natalia underlined, is the protection of energy infrastructure. And in this regard, I'm very happy to confirm that Italy just a few weeks ago delivered a second SAM-T air defense system for the protection of Ukraine. So this is a choral endeavor of the international community in order to support energy resilience of Ukraine, and we will continue to keep this issue very high on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next thing that I need to say is the war is really a big disaster for humanity, but also for energy sector. But also it's some kind type of impulse for us to make our reforms more quickly, to move on more quickly on the European energy market, to provide and to make our energy sector as well as European one. And it's also some opportunity for modernizing your system, because, you know, it's hard to destroy something that you already have that gives energy, money, but when you don't have any more that, you just can start from the 0 point and build much more better. The slogan, build back better, it's about energy, I believe. Of course, we're working with recovery. Of course, we try to survive this winter and prepare for the next one. But we also made many work for future, because we see our future and energy on this future more resilience, more efficient, and more environmentally sustainable. And we have strategy for this. And what we need also is your experience, how you work on this area, how you have your energy much more greener than a few years ago. And here I would like to hear representative from Norway, because as I know, Norway have good situation with oil and gas, but also you have very good situation with renewables. How it's work in your country when you could prioritize renewable, even if you have such useful oil and gas? And also maybe about some priorities of Norway, how you plan to support a recovery of Ukraine energy sector.
Thanks a lot. I will seek to make my points well within the limited number of minutes in 7 points. Hopefully then answering your questions and raising a few dilemmas too. The first, you're absolutely right, ma'am. Norway is an energy nation. As a matter of fact, all our electricity comes from hydropower, and we are at this stage the largest contributor of natural gas to Europe. We certainly do understand the dictum of building back better. But however, in Ukraine now, that is easier said than done. We will have to build back whatever it takes, including oil, gas, coal, in order for the Ukrainians to survive. So let's not underestimate the fact that Ukraine is in a critical situation. Second, your question, how do we do it? We believe in the international financial institutions. We believe in multilateral cooperation. Hello, UNDP. So consequently, our aid is not bilateral, it's through the multilateral organizations, for many different reasons, but also because we believe in them. The EBRD, the UNDP, the World Bank, Ukraine Recovery Trust Fund, etc. Also the RePower arm of the Ukraine Recovery Trust Fund. That's how we do it. And International Finance Corporation, the World Bank as well. Third, our development finance institution is now opening up for bids. in order to invest in Ukrainian companies, in Ukrainian business, and all partners out there. The Norwegian arrangements are colorblind. We welcome all nations to apply for this wonderful institution to invest in Ukraine. Fourth, I believe, I learned at business school that business is best left to business. However, we do understand, of course, that insurance is key. Insurance is key. War insurance schemes in order for business to make business in Ukraine. And we have contributed to the World Bank's MIGA, as well as the EBRD, and we have bilateral mechanisms as well in order to assist business. Not to do business, but to assist business in Ukraine. We will probably continue to do so. Together with David, I will sit on the Ukraine donor platform on behalf of Norway. We love the single project pipeline. We ask that of the Ukrainian government. What would be the top priorities, seen from the Ukrainian point of view, where we should invest? So my advice to the Ukrainian government would be, take the single project pipeline seriously, and we will take it seriously too. Sixth, if one turns the table, it is quite important, I think, that the Ukrainian side takes conditionalities seriously, reforms seriously. They do, but they will have to carry on, and now particularly, of course, EU conditionalities. So my advice would be to the Ukrainian government, be diligent, follow up these reform efforts. And that means that I can tell my minister that this is doing fine, this is going fine, then the minister can go to parliament and say the same thing, and parliament can go to the people and say that these funds are well invested, be they in the military side or on the humanitarian and civilian side. Seventh and final, that would be the dilemma perhaps. Now we have an incoming United States administration whose measures and policies we do not still know. And let me remind everyone here, well, you know this, but just remind yourselves how enormously and massively important the United States is for civilian aid to Ukraine. Everybody knows about the military aid, but the civilian aid as well, say through the World Bank. They are by far the largest contributor. If there is a seismic change in the United States policy, that will affect Ukraine, but it will also affect all of us. What should our policies be? And then I turn to you, ma'am. You will have an election within the next several months, perhaps, in Germany. I listened very intently for as long as it takes and what it takes. But as an outsider, I read that there are different views, also in your country now. So let's follow as closely as we can what's happening in Germany as well, and the next government coming in next year. Hopefully, and I hope that you are right. However, people will have to make their voice heard first. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone understands that reforms is very important, and also it's very important who assists you on these reforms. It's incredible that Ukraine, even if we have like full-scale invasion war, still trying to work with reforms. And it's good that we have partners that start assist to us on these efforts much more before when we have full-scale war. It's EBRD, for example, and when we have this full-scale war, they also have new one track, like helping with emergency assistance to us. And that's why I would like to ask to EBRD, how do you find this balance for support emergency needs and long-term commitments to sustainable energy sector reform and development in Ukraine? And maybe also some overall strategy from EBRD side, how to support Ukraine energy sector.
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you very much for inviting me to the panel. Let me start with two very quick points. The first is to put things in context. EBRD over the last 33 difficult months of full-scale invasion has committed €5 billion for financing, out of which roughly 2 billion has gone to energy. Now, that's my first point. My second point is that wouldn't be possible without a huge support we're getting from donor community. So huge thanks to Italy, Germany, Norway, and many others who have helped us to get where we are, who have been working with us hand in hand, complementing our efforts or topping up the commitments that we have made. Then secondly, the question on our approach. Now, it's good to have a good plan, a good strategy. And for us, a good strategy for Ukraine and its energy sector in sort of the long term is no different than what we are advocating for in other countries in which we operate, which means scaling up renewables, investment in grids, making sure that renewables is well integrated and can be delivered at the time it's needed. At the same time, in the context of Ukraine, it's not really about well-planned implementation of the strategy, because the situation we are facing is unpredictable, or totally unpredictable. We need to remain committed, we need to remain resilient, but agile at the same time. And that's why our approach over the first 2 and a bit years of a full-scale invasion has been changing. In the spring of 22, we started with a very strong liquidity support to key players in the energy, including Ukrenerga or NEK. Then in the summer, we realized that liquidity situation seems to be under control, but the economy has changed dramatically. The consumption of electricity has reduced, and suddenly Ukraine found itself in the summer of 2022 in a situation where there was a huge surplus of energy generation. So we started thinking about, what to do with that, how to help Ukraine to export that energy. By the time we got there, Russia started its targeted attacks on the critical energy infrastructure, targeting first transmission system operators. So suddenly that export of electricity idea was no longer possible to implement, and we had to refocus and help Ukrenerga to address emergency repairs of its infrastructure first, then secondly start talking about financing the protective structures. Key transformer stations are adequately protected. Then in parallel, or slightly later, we've seen things like destruction of Nowa Kachowka, and then we came up with a help to Ukrenerga. Later on, we've seen a huge damage to thermal power generation. While EBRD is not able to finance new thermal power generation, we've recognized the fact that there is a need to address this urgent issue. And we actually went back to our shareholders asking for a derogation from our energy sector strategy that allows us to finance emergency investments in small size gas-fired power generation. And that's what we are working on now together with our clients, Uknafta, Ukzeleznica, and hopefully more as well. By the way, these 2 projects are scheduled to sign still this year. And it's all about financing small size, I'm talking about 10 to 50 megawatts gas engines, gas pistons that would provide emergency power supply today, but tomorrow they will act as a balancing capacity for intermittent renewables. Because in the long term, it's all about building back better. You used that word before. The way we understand building back better is really building back in a green way, i.e. not necessarily replacing a damaged thermal generation with a new one, but rather with a new thermal power generation, but rather replacing it with a green power generation, with energy storage, with enhanced grids that will make the new energy system of Ukraine reliable, independent from any energy imports, difficult to manage through its dispersed nature, and of course sustainable. I think I would probably stop here on investment in terms of quick comments on reforms, which we have been supporting before the full-scale innovation and we continue to support now. I think the time for setting up a proper CFD auction scheme for renewables will come in due course, but today it's more about coming up with the ideas of de-risking those projects which are ready to build, those renewable energy projects which are ready to build, and also supporting increased transparency in the sector. I think it's super important to mention that any private sector foreign investors, and there is an appetite. A good example of that is our co-investment with Goldbeck Solar, a German company that is willing to invest equity in Ukraine, investing into solar power generation at the times of war. But to have more of this type of investments, we really jointly should be sort of carrying out about transparency and ability to present Ukraine as an investable destination. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that it's really logical now to talk a little bit more about green energy and green transition. Ukraine declared on our energy strategy till 2050 that we really would like to develop green energy, and on our balance it must be majority of energy. But of course it's hard to implement it during the war. But still we understand that we need to move on with these reforms and this idea and be as all our partners in Europe. And here I would like to give floor for Roman Shakhmatenko from UNDP. And I know that UNDP are really like to work with green energy, and that's why I would like him to talk a little bit more about main challenges currently facing Ukraine energy sector and why this idea of energy recovery, particularly in the context of green transformation, is important in current crisis. Roman, floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me, really, at this very, very important time for us, really. We're having winter beginning, and these kind of conversations, they're very instrumental for us right now. UNDP, being a developmental wing of UN, has a very interesting mandate all over the world. One of the obvious questions you would ask, how does the developmental agency work in a situation of dire crisis, ongoing war, in a humanitarian crisis? Now, we operate on the so-called nexus, in between the humanitarian interventions and developmental actions and activities. So what is very much important for us? That everything we do, all the interventions that we are taking, are becoming an integral part of the activities that will actually build back better, build back greener, but become a new solution for years to come. And we do understand that in current situation, Ukraine faces numerous challenges every day, as Natalia said, and it's just building up. And this brings us to the situation where we have to work in a reactive mode. We really have to react every day on a new challenge. And every time it's always more difficult and more difficult. Remember when we faced Kahovka Dam, no one could believe that, but we actually got it, unfortunately. Now, this brings us to the bottleneck of having the midterm and long-term planning. To the phase where we try to overcome the immediate dangers, but we cannot develop, we cannot go on. This is where we see ourselves as someone who could help, who could facilitate and provide the impulse to the midterm and long-term development. We are very grateful for the trust that we're getting from our partners, from our donors, from Norway, from Sweden, from Japan, from Denmark. We have more than 13 donors at the moment in our energy program. But for us, supporting right now Ukraine for this winter season and for upcoming months with gas generation is very much important. However, we see it as an instrument to be able to integrate in the future that vast amount of renewables that is needed. Currently, we're finalizing together with the Ministry of Environmental Protection the long-term low emissions development strategy, and we're having right now in Baku in Azerbaijan COP29, where some of those results will be presented. And according to those results, the energy mix that we will be seeing until 2050 is very much different. Of course, the majority is renewables. For example, nuclear is only 17%. Fossils are out, etc. But how do you get there? It starts now. For us, the reforms, the equipment that is coming, the way that we install the equipment, integrate the renewables, it's actually something that has to be already happening. And this is where the reforms and this is where the approaches, algorithms, management, etc. comes in. So therefore, I think right now is a great opportunity. However, as a bottlenecks, I think we should start with having more conversations like this, although it may sound weird, but just notice, we've spoken, build back better, build back greener. We counted around 16 different notions of that idea of how to build back greener. What exactly does it mean? Do we have KPIs for that? Do we understand how quickly we want to do the green transition? Do we understand what kind of challenges we're facing with the green transition? These are the questions. They're not simple questions. They may seem to be lying on the surface, but they're not really. So trying to move in a midterm and long-term way in a situation of dire crisis, where now we're saying whether there will be how difficult the winter is going to be, seems fantastic. But we don't really have another choice, I do believe so, as Ukraine, because this is our only way to develop. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's look like we have really many work in future, but we don't afraid because we really like challenges as Ukrainian people, as you know. And I think that last word I would last, like very short word from Natalia Boyko.
Thank you. I'd like to make two examples that might be a bit helpful. The first example was our most painful experience with decision making about the project's implementation. I saw somewhere here the World Bank team that spent with us a very challenging period at the first year of full-scale aggression. One day we understood that we need physically to make a decision and to cut our future to survive. One of the projects of the World Bank for one of the state companies was focused on a very prominent new project. We were so ambitious that we planned together with the World Bank team to make a project with solar and storages. First state-owned company, as a nice example, as a driver, as a good, like an example for the private companies to follow up. And unfortunately, at the first time of the full-scale aggression, we came to the World Bank team with our reality. And reality was follows. So we decide, unfortunately, to refocus the very bright project with the storages to the auto transformers need, because auto transformers of that company was destroyed, and we cut our future to survive in the very concrete moment. And we understood that that's the only way to get that quick financial flow to buy auto transformers, the very understandable, not fancy stuff, just to survive. And that World Bank team was together with us, hand by hand, in that very painful reality, breaking our dreams and trying to keep the reality. But now we're back to that project in 2 years. The second example, the brief remark, I'm in love with a single pipe project. I love project planning. From strategic part. The current reality is very painful for me. The second example is when you wake up in the morning in any company in Ukraine, somehow you may realize that your project is not anymore bankable because you get a new calculation about the passive protection. You understand that the military protection is even not calculated. And now you have a competition with the other countries with a simple reality when you can just buy a wind farm. Make a nice project about storages, and in Ukraine you need to find people who are ready to work in our reality. To build a not bankable project with a massive protection, passive protection, to get a green line about the military protection, the air defense for your region or your project or whatever. And then to start to fight for the realization of that project in a very challenging reality that is every morning the new one. That's why that very unique cooperation between us, private investors, our partners, banks, is so much important for us. And that's why maybe not always we are the most nice people, but I think that together we have a very brave and very unique spirit and energy that really drives Ukraine to the very best future. Thank you.
Thank you for final words. And to finalize our discussion today, thank you very much for that. I would like to have one more very quick question, and I will ask from your side only one word that could describe it. I would like you to think and bring to us one word that you expect that we could, how we could describe our energy sector in 5 years, for example. Just one word. It could be green, it could be sustainable, resilient maybe, but please bring us, it will be somehow our roadmap where we need to go, how you see our energy sector in 5 years. I would like to say safety and protected. Sorry, 2 words.
Resilient from my side.
Green.
I would say integrated within the energy system of the European Union.
I would say resilient.
I'm a born pessimist and optimist at the same time, so I would dare say that resilient should cover it. Whether it will be very green, I'm not quite sure.
Resilient, I agree.
Thank you so much. It looks like we really have planned where I need to go. Thank you very much, colleagues.